Hey guys, how y'all doing? My name is Mandy. I work with our onboarding team for Zoho CRM. So basically that means I help new customers learn how to use the software, learn how or help them getting the account set up, get all of their moving pieces into place. And so that's what this session is going to be. It's going to be super, super basic, like ground level. You're just getting started and you don't know what to do. So when you guys were getting started out, how many people had questions like this? Where do I get started, right? This is definitely probably the most common question that I get. They're like, all right, I've upgraded, I've bought the product. What do I do now? Where do I begin? I don't even know where to start. And so that's very, very common. So what we've done is we've kind of come up with the flow for exactly kind of what you'll want to do step by step to get started. So for you guys that are already kind of up and running, this will all be something that I'm hoping you'll say, oh, I wish somebody had told me like that's what you want to do next and that's where you want to go from here. But for you news guys, this is going to be really helpful for kind of getting a foundation of these are the steps that I want to take. All right, so this is what the agenda kind of looks like. These are the steps that I would say you want to start with. And so I've divided this into two sections. The first section is going to start out with users and permissions. So right, the first step is that you want to get your users added into your system. So that means your employees or anybody that you're going to have accessing your database. Now, some people prefer to kind of wait on this. They want to get the system fully customized and set up before they add their users in. And you can do that. It's just from my experience, most folks are like right out of the box, they want to get people added in. So that's where we're going to start out. From there, we're going to go into customization. There's going to be an entire section. There's not even entire. There's 2 entire sessions devoted completely to customization. So it's going to be split into basic and advanced. The next step is data. So that's getting your data added into the system. Right? So if you're coming over from an old CRM, or if you're just bringing data in from Excel, you want to upload your information into the CRM. That's probably one of the biggest things is from new customers is making sure that everything that they have gets added into the system. But aside from just getting data files imported, you also have things like your website visitors. You want to make sure that your web forms lead back into the CRM, and that kind of captures the right way. And then you want to manage the data properly, right? You want to create the right categories and groups and filters so that you can see it in a way that's meaningful for you. So then the second kind of half of this is going to be focused next on channels. So that's all of the different methods of communication that you guys have with your customers, showing you where that's going to be to bring that into the CRM. Then we're going to go into automation. Finally, we'll finish out with reporting. So these are kind of the steps that I would say usually most folks will go through getting the account set up, and they'll finish out these. Once they've got these things in place, then they're good to go. So starting out, we'll start with users and permissions, right? So your users are going to be your employees or anybody that you need to have access to the system. And the permissions are going to kind of control what data they have access to and what features they're able to play with in the system. So we have these split up into 2 different pieces. They're roles and profiles. So what we usually say, roles control what people can see and profiles control what people can do. So your roles are based on your organization's hierarchy. You're able to add users in at the top level, stair-stepping down based on who they report to, and that controls what data they have access to out of the box. The profiles are more specific to different modules or different features that they can play with inside the CRM. So I want to show you guys where this is going to be inside our demo account. And so just a quick tip, if you're just getting started out, I know a common question that I get is, hey, how do I get into the CRM easily? They're like, I feel like I have to click around quite a bit to get where I need to. If you go to Zoho.com, it's true you would have a lot of clicks to kind of get into the right spot. But if you go directly to crm.zoho.com, that'll get you right where you need to be. Just about any of our products are like that. Product.zoho.com will take you right into the right place. And you can bookmark that or just type it in. All right? So this is my CRM account. So when you're ready to add your users and permissions, you'll just click on this little tools icon here in the top right corner. And your users and control is located right here. And you'll just click on users and you'll be able to add your users in here. So you'll click on new user. It'll send them an email invitation once you've selected the role and profile. So you would just add your users into the system and they would get an email that has a link they'll want to click on. Now it's super, super important to keep in mind here, if you haven't started adding your users, when you do this, they're going to get an email with that link like I mentioned. And if they click on that link, that should take them to a page that just asks them to create a password. It's going to say, hey, you're joining into ABC Company's account. What do you want to make your password? What's your name? What's your password? That's all it should ask for. If they click on a link and they end up on the Zoho homepage or something else, then they're actually going to end up creating an entirely separate instance of the CRM. And this can be such a headache for users. Some of you may have experienced this when you added your users into the account. If they click on that and it doesn't take them into a page that says you're joining your company's organization, then you want to stop right there. There's no need to proceed. You can actually re-invite them into the system so they'll get a fresh invitation and they'll be able to join in. Otherwise, if they end up creating a brand new account, then we would just have to walk them through closing it out so then you can re-invite them. So it's a little bit of an inconvenience. It's not a deal breaker, but just to let you guys know, maybe give your users a heads up when you're adding them in. Hey, if it's asking you for your phone number and all different kinds of details, then that means go ahead and stop. You're creating a new account. So the next thing we'll get into is customization. This is usually the next kind of piece that people will go into when they're setting up their account. Now, what can you customize inside Zoho CRM? And the answer is a lot of stuff. And this slide is meant to be kind of just a little bit of a cluster as far as like what all's on there. All of these things are customizable. Just about anything that you would want to modify or change up inside the CRM, you do have the option to do that. So the biggest one for most folks is going to be like their modules, their fields, the different things that their users are able to see and have access to. Now, you definitely want to spend a fair amount of your time making sure that the customization is set up the way you want. Out of the box, the CRM is something you can dive in and use right away. It is basically you add your users, you add your data. Once you've got an idea of what the Salesforce automation looks like, your team could just start using it immediately. But you'll want to customize this and make it your own. You'll want to modify the pages to fit what your business needs are. And definitely to help with user adoption, you'll want to take out the stuff that's not applicable. There's a lot of fields in there by default that are sort of like a one-size-fits-all, and it's not going to be helpful for you. So if your sales reps go in there, they see a lot of fields that aren't relevant, they start thinking, I don't need to do this, I'm just not even going to fill this out at all, they'll go back to pen and paper. And then they're not even adding the data in the CRM like you want them to. So spending a good amount of time on customization is definitely something that you'll want to do. And just to show you guys where that's at inside your CRM account, you'll click on that little magic tools icon in the top right corner. And then all of that's going to be located in here under customization. So you'll see this spot for modules and fields. That's where most of it's going to live at. This is where you would be able to add your modules, add new fields, things like that. The great thing about this is, like I said, you can get this customized as much as you want. So I work with customers all the time who go in and they literally remove every module except for leads, contacts, and activities. They don't want to see anything else. They're like, I want this as simple as I possibly can. And on the contact screen, it'll look something like first name, last name, phone number, and email address. You can definitely do that. Obviously, it's more helpful the more custom fields you have, the more specifics that you're capturing about them. But there is no rule against that. You can modify this down as similar as you want. I like to tell customers, if you don't like a module, the good thing is you're not married to it in our CRM. You can dump them. You can hide them so you don't have to see them anymore. And if in a few months your needs change or maybe they're looking a little bit better, you can always get back together. All right, so another kind of thing I do want to show you guys real quick related to customization is going to be your home page. So you are able to modify your home page to change this up and see exactly what you want to see. So the home page is like the first thing you see when you log into the account. And you can come in here, you can set like a default home page that everyone sees, or you can create different home pages for your different users. So we have this default classic view. This is just going to show you some simple things like tasks and events and your pipeline by stage. But you can also create custom home pages like we've done here. And you can also share them to other users. So we had a lot of customers ask, hey, can I create a home page for my users? I don't want them to be able to create their own. I want to set something for them. They can still make their own, but you do have a way to kind of set something up for them. So the next thing that we're going to look into here is data. So bringing your data into the CRM. So I'm actually going to take you guys through uploading a file of data in the CRM. I think this is usually something that a lot of customers are really worried about when they're starting out. They want to make sure that they do it right. They want to make sure they bring everything over properly. And the reason we usually say data after customization is just because you want to make sure you get all of your fields added in there. When you're uploading the file, you do have a spot to just create new fields on the fly, but it's probably a good idea to have really thought out your customization and fleshed it out before you do your import. That way you know exactly what you're mapping when you start uploading a file. And so I'm going to take you guys into our CRM. And so this is just a slide that I had to show you. You can add your data from your previous databases. You can add lead lists that you might have purchased or you got from a trade show. And you can also connect your website, so then those users all come into the system. And you can also manage the data too. So I mentioned that before. You'll probably want to categorize your data a little bit, right? To kind of make it something that's useful. You go into all leads or all deals. That's great. You can see everything, but you'll probably want to filter it out a little bit, maybe based on industry or based on a particular sales rep. Or like we have here with these filters, you can actually base it off of who doesn't have any activities associated with them and who hasn't had any notes added in the last 30 days. So you're able to kind of manage your data in a way that really makes it more useful for you. All right, so now I'm going to come into the account, and I actually want to pull this data file that I uploaded in this tab real quick. I'm going to download that. Perfect. Okay, so there's two different ways you can upload data into the CRM from Excel files. You can either use the migration option, which is great if you're coming over from another database. For that, you'll just want to click on that little tools icon up in the top right. And then you'll see an option in here for data administration. And you'll want to choose that first option for import. Now, if you're coming over from another CRM, then you'll see a few options listed here. You'd be able to choose from them. But if you're not coming over from another CRM, if you're just uploading from an Excel file, you probably don't want to use this method. And the reason why is because when you do this method, it's assuming you have a lot of record IDs. If you're coming over from another CRM system, there's going to be kind of a relational table in the background that connects everything. Different record IDs match up with different files. This is a little bit more confusing than if you just have an Excel file you need to upload. But when you do this way, those fields are mandatory. It's going to say, hey, what's the lead ID? What's the contact ID? You would need to map those. So if you're not coming over from another database, instead of coming in through this section, you'll just go directly into the module, and you'll just click on that import button up at the top right. And then once you do that, you can tell it, okay, I want to import leads. And it's going to be like, oh, okay, do you want to do it from Excel or CSV? Now, it still gives you those other options down here below, but this is probably what you'll want in that scenario. So I'm just going to walk you guys through. Other than the record ID being mandatory, the process is going to be very similar. So I'm going to show you guys just kind of how that works. So you'll click on that CSV option or your whatever option you're coming over from, and you can select a file. So I've got this sample file here, and it's just going to kind of scan through it and let you hit next, and then it's going to take you to this page here, and it's going to be like, all right, so what are we doing with this? Are we doing like an import override, or are we doing a fresh import? So if you're doing a fresh import, you would just leave that first option selected, add as new leads. And you'll see right below it gives you the option to skip existing leads based on any sort of field you want. Most of the time, you'll probably want this to be like the email address, or maybe it's the phone number or something like that. But basically, this gives you a way to prevent duplicates before they come in. You can manage them once they're already in there, but it's 10 times harder to manage them after they've been added into your CRM than trying to take care of it beforehand. All right? Now, you do have this other option here for update existing leads only. And this is used in the event that you actually want to update records. So you want to do an overwrite. And you can do one of two things here. You can actually overwrite everything. You can say, this is the most current information I got from some database. So it's okay to replace everything that's in there. I just want to update it with the newest information. You would map up all of your fields, and you would proceed with the import. It'll find the existing record, and it'll basically overwrite it with the new information. But you can also just map the fields that you need to. So a lot of times you might import a file, and then later you get one piece of information that's new. And you don't necessarily want to overwrite everything. You don't want to undo it and start fresh because maybe you've started adding notes or activities. You want to just update that one field. And so this gives you the option to do that too. We could select the update existing records, and then we could say, go ahead, find based on email address. And then when you actually go into this next step to map your fields, you wouldn't need to map everything. You could just map the one particular field that you need to update. All right, so once you have selected your file, this is what it looks like. And you'll see this kind of might look a little bit weird, like you're like, what's going on here? Basically, the first column is just the fields or the columns from your data file, and the second column are the fields inside Zoho. So if you've added any custom fields, those are going to be displayed here as well. And if you realize immediately when you start mapping up your fields, you're like, oh, I don't have this field in here, you can create it. So you'll see up there in the top right, you can click on Create New Fields, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. Just up here, you can create new fields on the fly. You're able to select the field type that you want, the name, everything, and you can just add it in real quick. So you just come through here, you map up the column headers, or the fields in your file with the fields in Zoho, and once you've got them all mapped, you could just click on Import, and it'll say, hey, you're skipping anything, is that okay? Say continue. And then it's going to be like, all right, do you want to assign a lead source to all these guys? Do you want to add any tags? You can select what you want here and just hit finish. All right, and it's going to be scheduled. It takes like about a minute. Even if it's a pretty big file, I've never seen it take more than a few minutes. And you'll get a notification inside the CRM once it's done, and then you also get an email. And so that's all there is to it. I know that it seems scary until you start working on it. And if you've got a really big data file and you've got a lot of fields that you need to add in there, then definitely it can take a little bit more time than what we just ran through. But it's pretty easy to get all of your data uploaded. And if not, we also have a support team that can help you out. So the next thing we'll get into is channels. And this is bringing in your different communication methods into the CRM. So we have these different options here. So you'll see one is telephony, so that's for connecting your telephone system into the CRM. And then you would be able to do things like click to call, log your calls that you have automatically, things like that, and it would all be kind of recorded in the CRM for you. You can also link in your email. And this is big for most people. This is like a huge thing, wanting their email communication to be tracked in the CRM. Then the third option here is live chat. So if you guys are using Zoho Sales IQ, you can actually connect that into the CRM. And also the transcript from the chat's going to be logged in the CRM too. So once it creates a contact record, it'll pull that transcript in as a note on the record. So you would be able to see that. And then finally, the social media. So you can connect Facebook, Twitter, and Google+ into your CRM account. And then that way you can see people that are tweeting at you. You can add them as a lead into your CRM automatically. That social engagement will be stored in the CRM. You'll be able to kind of track all that. So just so you guys can see where the channels are, back into our little magic wrench icon. And then there's an entire section here for channels. So it's really easy, one after another. You've got email, telephony, the social integration, the chat, all of that's listed here. Now, sales signals, I'll just show you guys what this kind of gives you a way to get notifications based on your channel incoming alerts. So basically, if you get an email, by default, that already gives you that little email notification icon up in the top right. But you can take it a step further. If you're sending emails out from the CRM, when somebody opens an email or clicks it, or if it bounces, you can get a notification in sales signals in real time. Same way if you miss a call, if you've got Zoho Survey or Zoho Desk or any of those products linked in, you would be able to get a notification as soon as a new ticket comes in from Desk or as soon as somebody replies to a survey. So you're able to kind of configure these things in the Sales Signals tab so you get notified in real time inside the CRM without having to kind of jump across and keep refreshing and checking to see if you've gotten anything new. And I want to show you guys where your templates are located inside the CRM. So if we click on that little tools icon, and then under customization, this option here is templates. And so in this spot, you can create templates that you would be able to use for sending either one-off emails or mass emails if you like. I can tell you like a very common template that I use. I am always calling like all of our new customers. Most of the time, it's kind of just like sales. Nobody answers the phone. So I send them leave them a voicemail, and I shoot them an email. And that email that I send out, it's just a templated message that says, sorry, I missed you. This is Mandy checking in from the onboarding team. Just want to see how things are going. If you need any help, you can schedule an appointment with me, things like that. So that is probably like the most common email that I send, and it's got like a really good open rate compared to like some of our mass emails that go out actually. Like a lot of people open that because at that point they probably screened my call, I know, and then they're like, oh, but I bought this product, I do need help with that. And then they like click open the email, and then they want to click on the link to book an appointment. But this is just a way so you guys to know you can build out your templates here for either newsletters and mass emails that you want to send out, or you can do it for individual emails as well. All right, so the next thing I'm going to get into is automation. So we have a few different types of automation in our CRM. We have assignment rules, which are going to help you with kind of automating the assignment of your records to your different users. And you can do this one of two ways. You can either do this based on direct criteria. So, if maybe it's based on location. If they're located in Texas, you automatically want it to assign to the region or the sales rep that handles that region. So things like that, you can set like base criteria. But if you're not sure, or if you don't really have specifics on that, you just want it to kind of evenly distribute amongst your team, then you can set up a round robin pattern. So you can just create basically anytime a new lead gets added in the system, I want it to just round robin assign out. Now, it's really important to note that this is not for manually created records, right? If you're manually creating a record, it's assuming you are the owner of that record because you're creating it. Or when you create it, you can actually say, hey, create this for my buddy or my colleague. But when you're importing or when leads are coming in from web forms, that's the type of thing that you can automate the round robin assignment. Another type of automation that we have is scoring rules. We came out with this around a year ago, I guess, and it basically gives you a way to prioritize your leads. So before, you kind of had to just figure out, from blind entry, you just start going through a lead list. You assign maybe 100 leads to a sales rep. They would just have to kind of go one by one. But as we all know, not all leads are created equal. Definitely some are worth more than others. And so you probably are able to figure out which ones are more valuable based on certain fields and data values that you have. So you'd be able to kind of create lead scoring rules that would say something, like if the email contains Yahoo, then maybe subtract 5 points on that one. Or if the industry is a particular industry that you're in, then you know that you want to, maybe that's a more valuable lead, so you can increase the score. Now, obviously, it's not an exact science. I have gotten really, really big deals that registered with like a Yahoo or a Gmail address, so they kind of flew under the radar through the entire sales process, and then they were a big account, and nobody knew it. So, not every single time, but for the most part, you probably have identified what these types of fields are, these types of customers, based on what you get, and you can create your lead scoring rules. All right, and then we also have workflow rules. But basically, all you need to know about workflow rules is it gives you a way to automate some of the common procedures inside your CRM account. So things like, as soon as a lead gets added in the system, maybe you want a task to be generated so somebody follows up with them within a couple of days. Or maybe if a lead from a particular industry comes in, you want to make sure that they get an email right away. Things like that you can kind of automate. So I usually call it like an if this, then that scenario. So if a lead gets added in the system, then I want a task to be generated. And you can add criteria on that too to kind of specify it further down. And so just to show you guys where that all lives inside your CRM account, if you click on your little tools icon, all of this lives under automation. And so like I said, there's going to be a session completely devoted to automation, and it's going to cover scoring rules and assignment rules, I bet, and workflow rules and all of that. So they'll be able to kind of take you through the inner workings of it. But just so you guys know where that lives, you'll be able to find that all right in here. And then finally, I'm going to finish out, we're talking about reporting. This is kind of the last thing that you want to set up. You want to create your reports so that you're able to kind of analyze how things are going, right? We've gone through all of these steps of getting your data added in the system and getting your users and permissions set up and customized the way you want. So once everything's working right, you want to make sure that the work that you've done actually is coming through. So you're able to create reports. There's about 100 different predefined reports in the CRM, and you can go into those reports, you can customize them so you can add columns and change them up, and you can also create brand new ones from scratch. So if the sessions that are, or the reports that are in there don't meet what you need, that's okay. You can go in and you can create brand new ones. You can also schedule reports as well. So the reports run in real time. So as soon as you create a report, as soon as you click on it and go into it, it's going to run with the most current data you have in your system, assuming you don't have a filter telling it to show you yesterday's data or the day before. But you click on a report, it's going to show you the most current live data, right? But you can also schedule reports too. So a lot of times people say, I don't necessarily want to go in the CRM and click on the report. I just want to get emailed an update on what's going on. You can do that. You can create these scheduled reports that will basically send you a daily or a weekly or a monthly email, whatever you like, and it'll have the report attached to it as a CSV file. So you can just take a look at it. You can look at the numbers every day or however often you want. And you can also set that to go out to other people, maybe people that aren't users in your CRM, but overseers. You can do this for them too.